History is repeating itself again, and if we were to believe the Western media, it would be because Myanmar's government is an evil dictatorship, killing its own people while the world stands by and does nothing. But of course, history is actually really repeating itself because here is the West telling this lie once again about a government it wants to overthrow and about a nation it wants to intervene in. I want to draw attention to the social media account of Mei Wang. She's a correspondent at Channel News Asia based in Singapore. And I found that her Twitter feed is the perfect cross-section of the sort of disinformation emanating out of Myanmar and about Myanmar, and how it mirrors identically to the lies the US told about Libya, and how the events on the ground in Myanmar are shaping up exactly how they did in Libya in 2011. So if we look through her timeline, you're going to see her echoing the former US ambassador to Myanmar, the UN Special Rapporteur Tom Andrews saying the UN Security Council should act in Myanmar, as if the UN intervening anywhere has ever helped. Here she is echoing the US ambassador to the UN. She's doing all of this. These people don't need her to repeat what they're saying. They have their own platforms to get their message out to the public. What the public needs is for Mei Wang and other journalists like her to give real context to this, to point out that the US government is guilty of the worst crimes against humanity of the 21st century. And they used lies exactly like this to help justify those crimes. Here she is retweeting the AAPP, and this is an organization giving out statistics about how many people have been killed, how many have been detained. None of the evidence is ever provided, and she doesn't tell you who the AAPP is, but I will tell you who the AAPP is. It's the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners, and its founder and joint secretary, Ko Bo Chi, is also a fellow at the US government's National Endowment for Democracy. And this is a front chaired by the exact same people who helped engineer the wars against Iraq, Libya, and Syria. They've also actually participated in things like the occupation of Iraq after the 2003 invasion. She also cites the Karen Education and Culture Department, but she never tells you anything about their background. This is their partners and donors. And while none of these look like they're foreign governments, if you check them out, you will see that they're all funded by Australia, the EU, Canada. There's USAID right there, New Zealand. And these are all nations who side by side with the US have destroyed one nation after the other this century. Here is Mei Wang using this 9-year-old girl in Myanmar being exploited by her parents to beg the UN to intervene in Myanmar. And this is a gimmick the West has used many times. We remember BuzzFeed, this 2013 article about children in Syria begging the US government to bomb Syria. This is what the US does. They know that their narratives don't add up and that the public will start to see through them. So they throw children at you to disarm you of your critical thinking and to play on your emotions. Here is Mei Wang citing Myanmar Now. Myanmar Now is also funded by the US government through the National Endowment for Democracy. And we know that because here is the Columbia Journalism Review. And if you scroll down, you will see them admit that Myanmar Now receives funding from the National Endowment for Democracy. How come Mei Wang and others don't ever tell you that? But they're constantly citing Myanmar Now as if it's some sort of independent, credible source of information. It's not. And here is Mei Wang talking about this opposition government, this parallel government set up inside of Myanmar. This is exactly what the US did in Libya. They set up this puppet government in Benghazi, surrounded by armed militants with war weapons, and they pitted it against the government in Tripoli. This is exactly what they're doing in Myanmar. And how do we know that? There's this Asia Times article. It's written by David Scott Mathieson from Human Rights Watch, and it's titled, "Ethnic Armies Rescue Myanmar's Democratic Forces. Parallel government opposed to military rule has taken sanctuary and is building alliances in ethnic rebel-controlled areas." And these rebels, these armed factions backed by the US and the UK since the end of World War II, they are already fighting with the government in Myanmar. They've taken over military bases, exactly like in Libya in 2011 and also Syria. And here are the pictures of the fighters with their war weapons. These are the prisoners they captured. This is the equipment that they seized. So everything in Myanmar is shaping up exactly like how it did in Libya. All of the same lies are being told by all the same fake human rights groups backed by the US, as was the case in Libya. I think people might remember this documentary about the Libyan League for Human Rights and how they admitted that they just made everything up, that there was no evidence, and they told the West what they wanted to hear, and that members of the Libyan League for Human Rights were also part of the opposition, and they were doing that to climb their way into power. That is exactly what's happening in Myanmar right now. History is repeating itself. We remember what happened to Libya. The country was destroyed. It's a bunch of war bands killing each other inside the borders of what used to be Libya, and it destabilized all of North Africa and parts of the Middle East in the process. Myanmar is going to shape up in exactly the same way. It's bordering Thailand. It poses a direct threat to Thailand's national security. The media here in Thailand and across Southeast Asia needs to start pointing this out and raising the alarm, because once this crosses a certain threshold, you cannot go back. The instability, the chaos, the conflicts will be something that will haunt this region for years to come if it's not stopped now. If you thought this video was useful, please like and share. Think about subscribing. It's free to do and it helps the channel grow. Check the video description for all of these links that I've gone over, as well as for ways to help support my work so that I can continue doing videos like this. And as always, thank you for watching.